In the last lesson we created a simple spider, and in this lesson we're going to carry on creating that spider, again consolidating those skills of grouping objects together and arranging objects on different layers. We're going to create shadows and a background and all that kind of stuff for this spider now. So let's have a look at where we got to last time. Here's our spider from last time, and now what we want to do is we want to create a shadow and a ground for it to walk on, and we're going to create that on a different layer. Currently this spider is on layer 1 and we want to create a new layer, so we come to here, click on add a layer, and we'll call this background, and we want to make sure this is below the current layer and add. Now on this layer here we've now got layer 1, drop down box you can see, and we click on background, and we can hide objects by closing or clicking on the eye. So if we wanted to make sure we hid the spider, we can make the spider disappear so we can work carefully and we can bring it back again, but we want to work on the background. And what we're going to create now is a shadow, and we can create fake shadows by using the ellipse and the blur tool and the pen tool. So what we're going to do is make sure that we've selected a nice grey colour, so let's start with that. So we're going to create an ellipse that's about the same width as the spider and obviously a lot thinner, and we're going to choose just make it black, keep it simple, and then we're going to create shadows for the legs, and we can do those with the pen tool, and we just simply create a series of triangles that overlap with the circle, the ellipse, and we make another one come back to here, another one come back down to here, and it doesn't have to be too exact, but you'll get the idea. And then we do the same over here, again just going to the point of the foot, and it doesn't really matter how you do this. Just make sure they join up. There's our spiders. Now we can click on each one of those in turn, and we want just to fill them. So we just click on each one, and we want to fill them with black. It's just to make sure that they're all the colour we want. And at the moment it looks like it's a shadow. It's not too bad at all. But unless it's the midday sun, most shadows aren't crisp like that. Now what we want to do is we can edit this. We just stretch this a bit more, make it look a bit better. That's looking a bit better now. Our spider's looking like it's in the right place. Yep, it's not bad. So you can see you can move all these things around and stretch that a bit this way. There's our spider, so it's not at all bad. Now what we can do is we can group that's together. Because we're working on the one layer, we can use this tool here, and we can just group everything. Control G. Now what we can do is we can go to the blur tool here, we click on the background, and what we want to do is we want to blur it so the shadow is nice and blurry. But also shadows aren't that black either, so we can change the opacity as well and fudge the whole issue of the shadow, and that will probably do for the moment. So now we've got a more of a shadowy shadow, and we can now put some ground for our spider to walk on. And again, working on the same layer still, we can create an ellipse here. There's our shadow. Now we want to make sure that that's moved to the bottom of the stack. So we go Object, lower to bottom, and we want it to be a green ground. So let's choose a green, and let's choose a more realistic looking green than that. Let's make it a green to green. Perhaps a bit more brown in there. Make it back to towards there. That's looking okay. And we want to take the opacity back up to 100%. Click OK. So now our spider looks like he's got a shadow and he's sitting on the ground. And you can fiddle about with this as much as you like to. We're going to put a faded background in the back here. We're going to create a square like this, and I'm going to fill that with a gradient. I'm going to put a linear gradient, and I want to go from, let's go from here and see. I want it to be a blue. What colour of blue should we have? A light blue. Let's have a dark blue going to a light blue. Right, we want this blue here. And stop. And then I want a darker blue. And stop. And I'll have, and we won't have any fade. There we go. So now we've created our spider, but again this needs to be moved down to the bottom. So layer, object, lower to bottom. There we are. So now we've got our spider and we've got a bit of a background, and it's a very simple, very quick image to create. And now the last thing we need to do is create some expressions and a face for our spider, and we'll do that in the next lesson. But at the moment that's not looking too bad.